So I think I'll make all these videos about my update as opposed to just my philosophies on life, like titled with an update or something. But yeah, on my walk today, I really am not in the mood like I was before. I don't know if this is part of die-off. Like, here's the thing. How am I supposed to know, right? That's kind of what I think about. Like, first of all, how are you supposed to know what parasites do to your body, like what that experience is like, unless you even know you have parasites? First of all, I only suspect, only because the herbs I'm taking and all the herbs I've tried, and then these ones are for parasites. But like I said, how am I supposed to know if how I've been feeling is a good thing or bad thing for, I'm here to accomplish a goal, which is going into remission. And my version of remission that I remember those 2 years of being pain-free was like nothing brought that pain back. I was drinking and doing whatever I wanted. But anyway, that's what I'm trying to get to. And I've continued to take this herb, even though it says like take a break after 20 days, and even other people attest to that too, taking breaks. But I don't know. I think a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. And even the stuff that are in most protocols, I think those don't even know what they're talking about. Because if they did, like, people wouldn't come up with all these other theories, and it would just be a protocol for whatever, symptom, and it works every time. Why are you asking questions? And I think we would all agree that's just like not how it works, because that's what everyone looks for is what to do for their symptoms, whatever. So then if you do something that isn't obvious, like this, what do you know? How do you know what to expect? It's like, that can be scary sometimes, depending on whatever it is you're trying. I just always go back to this turpentine example. People with candida, try turpentine, which is marketed as paint thinner, but it's actually, I guess, pure pine oil. So it's actually natural, I guess, like in its purest form. And you can get that purest form. It says on the bottle, fatal to swallow, but literally, I know for a fact people swallow it. Like, to treat candida. I thought it was like a conspiracy myself even. But I met people in real life that had done it. And I have done it too. It didn't kill me. I know a guy that said he drank maybe a whole bottle, if I remember correctly, or just even half a bottle. That would be insane. But it was definitely something like that. But he also didn't have the symptoms I had, which also always made me wonder. Like, if you're following anything here for like chronic pelvic pain, and you look into these alternative things like candida or SIBO, even parasites or whatever, like, no one is there in those groups, like candida or whatever, solving this issue. Maybe there are, but it's very rare. Trust me, very rare. I'm more of an open-minded type person. But yeah, so I guess the point is, how are you supposed to know? And then what you even hear, how do you know that they're right? Maybe they're doing everything wrong, and that's why they're posting whatever it is that you're reading that you think is what to expect. But in reality, these people are creating new issues because we're all treating this blind and going through trial and error. That's the common theme I notice when treating things like this, parasites and candida or whatever, those sort of things. Because those people never are treating chronic pelvic pain. I'll keep that in mind. Like, they're on these groups talking about all this suffering or whatever, or how hard it is, or die off or whatever. And you're like, me at least, I'm thinking, well, my only symptom I'm trying to treat here is pain, and things I take influence my pain, which make it hell. Like, you're describing how hard it is, but for me, it's like I have no choice, for one, and my pain is compelling me to actually figure it out, especially if I make it worse. So that's like kind of what the unique situation about having a chronic pain disorder, disease creates. So that's kind of why, no matter how I've been feeling, because it's been really up and down, and there's been a few different symptoms that, like, I've noticed that, like, anyone would. There's some that also are there chronic that really I don't care about, like skin rashes and stuff, or even my tongue. It was like not normal color. I don't know how to describe it, because even that changed. It would be like yellowish and white, but ever since it started, that's like, but it's not like I read about the people. I've even seen people in candida groups, in those groups, to treat just their white tongue, and it's like, what? Like, I don't know. If I had no other issue but a white tongue, I probably wouldn't even go to a doctor. Like, I'd just be like, how does this even, I probably wouldn't even know how it affects me unless it's painful. Then I'd probably care. I mean, for sure I'd care. So it's kind of the dilemma, because, like, the fact, it's like there's these certain rules that if you are pursuing self-medication, that will have to apply. First is you have to believe you can make this situation or symptom improve, if not, cure. Let's just call it that. I prefer that word. A lot of people seem to think that type of word is like, crazy speak, especially for what someone might consider not an immune disorder, that most of the time they probably don't have something like that, but they know the science, or they have it and have never looked into something like, a way to reverse an autoimmune disorder, like carnivore or whatever. I know a lot about a lot of different things. Because like I said, people with chronic pelvic pain, it's actually quite rare that they even go outside of, I guess, what ends up being a pharmaceutical. Like urologist, whatever, family doctor. It really doesn't matter who you go to. And, you can get, if you get success with pharmaceutical, even to be cured, that also seems to be rare success is kind of like a difficult thing to measure, just like or improvement is even a difficult thing to measure, just like pain itself is difficult to measure. Trust me, I know people say, non-physical pain is pain to them, and express it that way to medical providers even, and they just have to accept it because the test results to them are the same, which is like, oh, you look healthy and I don't see whatever is causing your complaint, which at 94% of the time is the case for chronic pelvic pain. So even most urologists might have, it wouldn't surprise me if it's this unspoken theory that it's a mental disorder. Maybe that's why they call it syndrome. I don't understand suffix as well, but when something's a disease, doctors call it a disease or an infection. But also those definitions have rigid meaning. Like they don't apply those terms loosely like we do it in normal society. I made a post on that, if you took a Cipro and became floxed, you say you're poisoned. A doctor will never agree with that. No doctor would. And if they did, it would be like an off-the-record comment. Because if they put that sort of comment on the record, they must have their own private practice. That's maybe it. Because you can't have that way of thinking in most of the system. I'm not going to get into all that because that's like a huge topic in itself about just capitalism and all. But anyway, and even with the regulation from government, forcing insurance and all that. But yeah, and you not being able to negotiate any costs, like if whatever. You don't negotiate those costs, not up front at least. If you don't pay a bill, and maybe you can then, but like I said, that's a whole subject. And I only know about it because the system, I've seen so many doctors. I've stopped paying co-pays even. I'm just like, fuck it. You guys probably won't send this to debt collection anyway. It's $20. Whatever. But anyway, yeah. So I think that's kind of the dilemma I'm in, because this is my update. And the thing I noticed that kind of told me that this must work. For one, maybe the power of belief is true. I don't know. I really don't believe in that. Almost everything I've done, I kind of went into it with some logic. So I kind of believed in what I did. And I would try not to repeat things. Diet's an easy one to kind of stick to the end, which who knows how long that could be. I think it could be forever for some cases. Maybe the severity of the infection. I think in almost all cases, though, it's an infection. I really do. Even for old people. I mean, think about it. Old people just have, years more of opportunities to have done damage that they might not even recollect, that just accumulated and hit a tipping point. They say cancer, if you eat a certain chemical or use a Teflon pan or nonstick pan after, they don't know when you get cancer from that. They just know it causes cancer. I mean, that's why those things get banned. What's the tipping point? How many years do I have to use a Teflon pan before I have to worry about it? Because we all know we've probably ate food that came off a nonstick pan. Some people might not even know that and continue to use them as often, home and away. Because when you go out to eat, you're probably, unless for sure, odds are you're eating from non-stick cookware. So it's not like that shit gives you cancer overnight. And so that's my point with old people that get chronic pelvic pain, because it seems like there's this idea, especially among the patients, but mostly among doctors, that like this is like a normal, common thing that happens to old men. Because what I know is when I see urologists, like I'm usually the only younger person there under like 40. I don't know. I'm not really good at telling age past 40 though. It always seems like the people are probably like on average like 60 years old there. Like just before they're hitting retirement age, or like retirement home age. I mean, like we're like that is definitely, the majority, like 80%. Trust me, because like I would recognize that, and I've also went to many urologists, and like if I were to see a younger person in the waiting room, I would remember that, because I remember it. Like I could probably think of less than 5 random strangers, and I've seen a lot, like out of maybe 1,000 at least in total. So that's like a small ratio. So like, I mean, yeah, and those people just kind of ride it out for the rest of their lives, I guess, thinking that like, this just is with age. Because at the end of the day, even the young people that get it, and it, in my opinion, is an infection, there's no test that's going to show that. So like, the tests aren't reliable, no matter what age you are. So like, I don't know, that's why chronic pelvic pain is actually like a very complex disorder, and I understand why doctors, like the other thing too that I don't understand, that tells me everything must not make sense to even the people who are studying it, is this idea that like antibiotics have like an inflammatory effect. So if you have pain you're treating randomly with antibiotics, and one, doesn't work in the long term, but it has even like the slightest bit of a positive effect, they blame that on the fact that it's anti-inflammatory part of the drug. Like I guess they have ibuprofen in them, but then to me that would only make sense if you had that slightest bit of positivity in terms of how it affects your pain, because that's what it was for me. So that's my experience for every antibiotic. Because like, how many different things are there for that anti-inflammatory response, as kind of like, a doctor would see it? Is it like Motrin, ibuprofen, like the active ingredient? I don't know what it's called, but it's like Naxaprin. There's even prescribed versions of the same thing. It's just like in a higher amount. Like you can get Motrin 900 milligrams, but it has to be prescribed, or you can just go to Walgreens and get a shit ton of pills and take way more than the normal dose. Like I feel like that's the same thing. So like, if their logic, because like, they deny you have an infection, because that's the key, that's the thing everyone disagrees on. To me that matters, because you got to know what it is to cure it, or to even treat it, manage it even. And to me, if you have any response to anything, that should be a sign, whether you can clearly spot that on a before and after test, right? Because like, if you take something, you need the control to test to see this is where you stood, and then after, you take that as a patient, you're like, it didn't work, but it affected it. And like, maybe it's just like you got to describe it, and like they try to bucket that in like ways to describe pain, because pressure, stabbing, whatever. but they seem to just ignore that. Like, that feedback gets, like, I don't know where in even the process that is recognized and taken with any sort of credit that will ultimately change a doctor's opinion of what that cause could be. If unless they just think the tests are 100%, which they have to. Even though I don't think they even admit that. Because they say like false tests or whatever. Or, maybe you got to do a sperm test. Or like catch it on the first piss in the morning. Or do a prostate massage. Get some fluid in your bladder and then piss. Like they have different even methods to know like what piss is gonna best show an infection, because our tests should find every infection. Like it ultimately goes back to them, to that point for them. It's like our test should find it. You're just like, you maybe drank too much water and your piss is diluted. Like, who fucking knows? Maybe they think it's like a marijuana test, and I don't know. I don't really know that part of the test, and not a lot of people even do. Even doctors, they just kind of accept it, kind of like we accept the Earth is round, which I won't even get into. But I'm just saying, like, no one really, like the like 99.9% of the time, that person's not going to be able to explain you with foolproof and evidence that the Earth is round. Just saying. Like, it's just this, like, whatever. Because everyone with CPPS, unless they're like me, doesn't really believe that this is something you cure. Or, the people who take antidepressants and over enough time, they're like, oh, I guess my pain's gone, because it actually was like a painkiller for them. They stop it, and it's gone even then too. Like, it's all over the place. It's just, I'm talking to the people where these type of, like, I don't know, where the pharmaceuticals just aren't enough. Because to me, the pharmaceutical path is like, there's almost no way around it, especially in the beginning, and especially if it starts off as an STD for sure, like me. There's definitely no way around it. Then I'm not claiming you can cure chlamydia ever with an alternative approach. I'm pretty sure you can only cure that with a pharmaceutical antibiotic. I'll make that clear, and I'm pretty sure, because mine did start off as chlamydia, even though I never tested positive, the antibiotics definitely were needed. Which is kind of part of the dilemma, because, like, I don't know what antibiotic made it lead to this. It was probably the Cipro. But who knows? That's, again, the theory. Like, I don't know. I guess, like, the takeaway is, no matter what, like, for me, I think I was an extreme case. I had to have been. But trial and error, there's risk, and there's almost, like, there's no way around it, in my opinion. Just like if you have an STD, there's no way around avoiding a pharmaceutical, if that's how you feel. If you become anti-vax, even get an STD, tell me you're not going to take a freaking antibiotic if you see especially if you see a test positive. But even after a fucking sketchy, like, if you had sex with, like, a hooker or something without a condom, if you're that crazy, and then you have that urethra tip pain, You don't need a positive test to tell you that the point stands, there's no way around taking an antibiotic. So, it definitely has its place. I want it, like, as anti-pharma as I am, I see the truth in a lot of different aspects of managing health and even treating it, especially. I think I can manage it too. That could have even been easier, but again, my case is so severe. I like, maybe enough time could have gone by on the right diet, and it would have got to a point where I'm just like, cool, if this what it is, I could ride this out until I die. It hasn't been that way, and I've given a lot of effort in a lot of different things. Mostly in the since I made it way worse, I tried to play safe. This would make no sense to anyone unless they, have any sort of appreciation for trying to self-medicate. Especially, it's not just taking a supplement. And actually, I'll always say, I don't know if I have parasites. I only know this because I feel like there's definitely more positive, and especially how my mental thoughts and everything and energy. That's what it was at first. Is I noticed my energy because I've been taking pharmaceutical. Was Vyvanse, now Adderall, because it helped me do what I have to do in life to keep a job. So, I guess it definitely helped. Without it, I'm pretty sure I'd probably be in not a good situation, a way worse living situation than I am now. I don't even want to go down that path, but it wouldn't be good. I'd be jobless, basically, so it wouldn't be good. And so what's also something that I think about that kind of is pushing me, that I'm like, because I never knew and had no way of knowing parasites could cause chronic pelvic pain. Trust me, I don't think anyone will ever believe this. I completely understand why. I don't even care. I really, I do not care. I am making these videos and maybe someone thinks I'm just talking out of my ass. I don't know. To me, I know a lot. I would confidently say, when it comes to prostatitis and chronic pelvic pain, I know everything the doctors know, even the top-notch ones, if not more. And my reasoning, the reason why I even believe that myself is because not only have I experienced it, but this go around especially, now I fully know that. And even doctors have said this. And at Cleveland Clinic, actually, the dude told me straight up, he's like, you have had this for a long time, and I know you know everything there is to know about it. It was, that's not an exact quote, but that's basically the gist of it. And he's like, what do you expect? And I was like, I know. It's just that bad. I don't know what to do. You're Cleveland Clinic, at the very least, I can't figure this out. I have to have a paper trail if I go on disability. That's even why I would even, if I'm talking, I don't know. It just all had to line up. It wouldn't have just been chronic pelvic pain I go on disability. I knew that. It would be a mental thing. But whatever. I don't know, I'm not going to get into that now. That's super complex and very personal. But anyway, the point is I just don't have this confidence out of nowhere when it comes to chronic pelvic pain syndrome. And like, it's just crazy that like it's rare, but also it's not, because it's pretty common for men after like 50 or whatever. Then they're like, oh, this just fucking happens. That's why they start giving you prostate exams, as part of your annual physical. If you do those for men, I don't know what age, but maybe it's after 40 or something. I don't know, but it's like way later in life. And I remember that because I was in the Army, and they didn't do that for the younger guys. But for the older guys, they would check their prostate. And I guess that only applied to like the 40 plus people. And also that was in the National Guard too, because they forced us to do physicals. Because I was forced to do, what's it called? Mercury tooth fillings. Because I remember asking the doctor, or the dentist, because they have you do like this round robin of health shit. Make sure you're up to date with everything. Like they force it on you too. And for back then, like it wasn't like this, like, COVID vaccines. Because if there were, I definitely would have been given a COVID vaccine. And I was not in a position to quit the Army over it. So, yeah, it would have happened. But anyway, so I got the mercury fillings because I wanted them to do porcelain fillings, and they kind of laughed at me. Because I knew some things back then. I was like, I kind of like had looked into the candida thing, and so I didn't want to make that potential cause even worse. And I thought, like, mercury fillings, like that's good. That's bad for all kind of reasons. Because I also I think might have seen a documentary about dentists dying from cancer and shit, and I had no idea until I knew that this had mercury in them, that they even had mercury. I just thought it was like silver. I'm so dumb, I'm telling you. Like, I learned things like in a really weird way, especially when it comes to health. It like has to happen to me, and then it's like has to be something I personally want to solve, and then I'm like, it then registers and I remember it forever. But I could have heard that same shit most times. Like, I feel like I have that problem less now, but in the early days before I had chronic pelvic pain, especially, like, all that kind of shit I'd just discover if I ever did. So I used to have a lot of mercury fillings too. I actually got rid of them all and did porcelain ones. That didn't help. I did that recently, like maybe 2.5 years ago. I'm telling you, I've hit this at almost every angle I could have thought of before I took it to some of the extreme lengths I did. And I didn't even do some of the more extreme stuff. I'm glad. Like, I guess, like, the most extreme to me in terms of solving chronic pelvic pain is probably injecting antibiotics into the prostate. To me, that, like, was, like, absolutely the most risky thing you could do. And to me, that risk was making it worse in terms of pain, and it not being a short-term thing, but being like a long-term thing that now you've complicated. Because, like, who knows the damage that could cause? There are not, the people who try that are so few, and they're not even posting. Maybe they've just killed themselves. Like, who knows? And actually, the people that I think I've talked to 2 people at least, for sure, that it was just a horror story. And they're like, oh my God, I was pissing blood and shit. And it's like, fuck, dude, your symptoms aren't even as bad as mine. I feel like mine are the worst than ever. And I do not want to make hell, if I'm in like the 7th layer of hell, whatever the 8th is, like, I didn't even know it could go this low. Like, it was that even, how deep hell goes is also a discovery in itself. Like, I, had this twice, and it has been my first experience. Like, if it helped me in any way, it was like, just don't do any of that stuff again. which I actually did most of that stuff all over again. That's why it's gone on for so long. and it just got worse. I know why it got worse, but to anyone following, it just made no sense. And everyone I reached out to would obviously want to help. That's why I'm making these videos, because maybe this helps someone. And I just want to be honest that, I think even the people who are able to manage it well, even get lucky with pharmaceuticals, even self-medication, like, that's what it is at the end of the day, is luck. Because without a test, there's just simply no test. So no one can prove anything. The only proof is what people say, because 94% of the time you just have to go off their word. Like, that's a simple fact when it comes to chronic pelvic pain. So, like, for most, I think statistically speaking, anyone you talk to, any random person who might see this, even unless they have chronic pelvic pain, like, this wouldn't even register a lot of what I say. I think, if it becomes like a more common thought pattern, it's when the poisoning becomes obvious, and the lack of testing is, and especially because you can get away with poisoning if there's no testing, and I think that's what's even happening. I mean, it can happen if I'm right. Like, if I'm right and there's simply no accurate testing to know what's going on in the body and what causes whatever, cancer, whatever you want to try to figure out that you just don't want to accept living with or dying from. That's when you probably act even. But like, if I'm right and there's no test, then we're only going to stop what we can prove. And we can only prove what we can test. It's just, and I think, like, some of the evidence is just over time and what people develop, and them just trying to connect dots. And even then, I think there's still theories, and they still regulate based on theories. They definitely do. And there's definitely still things that are out there, poisoning. I'm not using that term, I use it how I believe it should be used. Because to me, it's poisoning. Whatever it does and how you're able to accept it. Like, you may not agree, but depending on, you would. Especially if you knew. And again, that's how they get away with it, because there's no test. They can get away with the poisoning. So almost no one knows. That's why we're conspiracy theorists when it comes to using snake oils. It's pretty much like, it's not a broad term. It's just the term for supplements. Like, you do see some MDs and everything that might recommend adding in different supplements to standard pharmaceuticals, and it's very rare. And even, like, so my experience when they have was I saw Dr. Alan Polakowicz at Mount Sinai after being referred to him, because he's pioneering new things in prostatitis. What a joke. I met that guy. Standard stuff. He wanted to start me off on a cystoscopy. I was like, dude, no. Like, did you not hear everything I've told you? Because I went through it all as much as I could. Like, I kind of developed an elevator speech. Like, I knew I had limited time, because, like, you might have 30 minutes on the schedule, but those guys are in and out typically in 15 minutes. Sometimes on a first visit it's different, but pretty much after that, they're like, dude, you try the medicine, tell me how you feel. Like, what else are we talking about? Are we just rehashing stuff now? And again, like, I understand, why, even because their tool chest is limited. And for prostatitis, like this guy actually, this, top pioneer, new prostatitis or whatever, new shit. His opinion, if you don't have a positive test, they'll never give you an antibiotic. Even not, like, I got to a point where I was desperate and like requesting them to try it. And I was like, I'm ready to try it again, but here's what I try. Like, what do you think? And I've had, some positive type things come out of it. It never cured me for sure, and he was just like completely unwilling without a positive test. And, the people that don't have positive tests that actually get success from antibiotics, that happens actually, it's not even uncommon. Like, those people would be screwed if they saw Alan Pollock, who's supposed to be at Mount Sinai, top of his class in prostatitis. What the fuck ever. That shit means nothing to me. It means like, okay, I guess like you test on SAT well, but first of all, you don't even have prostatitis, and there's no test to show any infection. It's just like, you have to live it to believe that, because you're only going to have interest to then. But he was a joke in the end. And when then you go outside of urologists to other doctors, but especially mental health doctors, whatever, treating for the depression, or they might think it's in your head even and call you schizophrenic or bipolar or whatever. They call me bipolar. So if you describe that to them, and how you're so much smarter, ultimately, that's how they'll see it. Like, they'll see it as, you think you're smarter than science. Especially if you got into the details of saying, like, oh, I've gone to Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic, and like, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, I know I have an infection or whatever. Especially if you're talking like that, and they're like, it's kind of like this common thought among most norms, but even like a therapist, for example, that's like, you think you have an infection the freaking doctors aren't finding? Because to them, an infection means if you don't treat it, you're going to die. And they're like, you'd be dead. That's the proof you don't have an infection. That's how they think. That's really how they think. And if they were like, to know it's a pelvic pain infection you claim that the tests aren't finding, that you're not already dead from, is an STD, or no, it's pelvic pain, to them, they would just automatically be like, you got an STD. Or for a woman, they might say, you got a UTI. Because that, like, UTIs are, like, not common for men to just randomly happen. But for men, they're just automatically, everyone does it. Trust me, if you've had chronic pelvic pain and not responded to treatment and talk to anyone about it, they're just gonna, like, I'm telling you, too, that they think in the back of their mind, like, you have an STD. Because even I've talked to, like, people about this happening, girls that I've been with, and, I hooked up with them when I was healthy, or fine, even when I had pain for 8 years. I was fucking hooking up with girls. I wasn't telling them, like, I might have an STD I don't know about. Like, check yourself. Because I had actually tested enough girls to also know that too. But anyway, I didn't have to. I just knew it wasn't something that was given to other people that I was just reinfecting myself with. So I don't know, like, that's what, infection is weird. It can just be an overgrowth of what's already there, just like C. diff, it's logic. But, yeah, so, I guess the point of this update is, like, I really don't know what to expect, and I just pushed through it. And I've just kind of explained why I don't trust a lot of things I read or hear or whatever. Even parasite people. Like, people in the group, and they're like, oh, this is die-off symptoms or whatever. Like, dude, you could just be getting worse and never recover from whatever it is you're trying, and just be like, throwing all kind of whatever's, out here, throwing people off. Especially if it's outside of like standard protocols you read about. Like, I know people say die off and stuff, and to take charcoal and shit, detox stuff. I'm just not doing it. I don't even, I might find it's necessary, but I've like just done so much of that stuff, and I just feel like I might not know what every supplement like does, and how my body responses in every aspect. Like, B vitamins are like giving me like 5% more energy, or like, to that level. I generally know certain things from trying that seem to have the effect that's out, that like magnesium kind of helps keep me flowing. I don't know what form. I take a complex just because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket and it be wrong. That seems to help me stay regular in terms of like going number 2. And I guess I believe in the logic behind, if you're killing something, you should probably, give it a way out. So I don't want to be constipated and shit, because I'm eating so little. So that's kind of why I'm taking magnesium, but that's all I'm taking in the herb. And then it's just food. I don't know. I've always tried to find, I don't know why. I guess it's because I've taken just so many supplements, and I just don't like taking so many and playing a balancing act, and just like, I don't know what's a placebo, what's necessary, what I'm just overloading my system on. It just seems unnatural, even the natural stuff. And it's just like who knows how they're like making this shit. Like, I don't know. I used to be all about it. My opinions on that sort of thing have just constantly evolved. And that's just where I'm at right now. And I've been eating just very little. I still have a bit of a food phobia, because I believe this is working, and I just don't want to make it take forever, one, and counteract anything, because I don't really know. I'm taking a complex, and I definitely know there's some stuff in here I've taken that made it worse. I just think it's not a lot, like Allison and Padiarco. I mean, it's just that really, but I think it's just probably so little amount, and it's like I was taking high doses of that straight up before, and then my sinuses. Oh, that's the thing today, and that's what's been like. So there's been certain things I noticed that are truly just all connected. I always kind of suspected it. But I never, like, I don't know, I also doubted it too, because I started, because it's just, I've been so unsuccessful with everything I've tried, and I've done so much, like, there's so much justification I put towards everything I've done. Sometimes it would be not so much, sometimes it would be like a whole lot at once. And, especially the times where I did a whole lot at once, like, and not to get any improvement, but only get worse, like mentally, it's really not only demotivating, but it's almost hard to describe. It's one of those things you just have to experience. And this is, like, these experiences I've had, like, it's everything about it is so much different than my entire experience dealing with the 8 years I did, up to the point I did what I did to put it into remission. Like, I almost feel like then there's like, I just got lucky, And at the end, I know I did, because I could have easily taken something, especially like a herb, and just got worse. That could have easily happened too. So like, for it to have worked, I just got so lucky. So this time, nothing's the same, because not only did my protocol work, and I tried every aspect of it, if not even harder. I put more effort, I thought. The only thing that I, if I'm like perfectly honest, which is, it probably sounds stupid, but the only difference between the two, this time, is not only just the length of time. This time it's like been 4.5 years. It took me like 6 weeks before to change my lifestyle and get through it, but I wasn't smoking then. So throughout like the whole time, when things like just were never working, I just tried to quit smoking on and off, and like mentally, that was probably one of the hardest things even. I don't know, like e-cigs, I know, are way more nicotine, but also dealing with pain. Like, quit smoking is not that difficult when you're not in pain, but when you're in pain, it's kind of like a coping mechanism. So I was like losing that, and so that was like always on my mind. And I was always angry about that addiction. But now, I've never really been able to quit smoking up until I went to the psych ward. And even there, they let us smoke. It was just only for like an hour, spread out like for 4 times throughout the day. Which I was like, oh my fucking God. There's like, my life is just like living for smoke breaks even. I guess it kind of distracted me in a way of the pain, but it's still miserable. But yeah, this time is just so different in every aspect of it. Even to the point where I kind of realized, like, I kind of remember how like in the beginning, I was like panicked and for sure like, oh my God, I just caused something that I know takes work to go away and won't go away without being treated, and whatever. So I was panicked, but I had good spirits in the beginning. But it was like 8 months. I put in a lot of effort into diet and exercise and buying supplements and shit. But I had energy throughout the whole time. Like, nothing was really, things were a struggle, but it was just like, never did it occur to me what ended up playing out could actually be the case. Like, somehow, at least in the first 8 months, so from August of 2020 to April 21, like, yes, I did everything, and it would be like up and down, and I'd take breaks or find something was definitely not working. My diet and exercise was very consistent though, but my supplements were always kind of shifted around. Never did it occur to me that this was like even going to happen. To me, it was always a matter of time that I just like, something like it turns a corner and it just like boom, I found what's working. Now turn up the dials with everything I can. That makes sense. Exercise more even, go to saunas longer, whatever, eat less, fast more, shit like that. But never did I discover that. And I thought like throughout, the first 8 months, like it would just be any moment. The times where I went on kind of breaks from kind of like the powerful herbs and stuff, because I did that a lot, because I was doing a lot. That's how I know so much about like herbs and everything. because I tried so many new ones and had to research them. I wasn't just taking fucking any herb out there. That'd be insane. But anyway, yeah, so it never occurred to me, because like I definitely always had in my mind that like, I don't know, like it'd be, because I was seeing my son so much. I was like, I'm gonna actually start having fun again with you, because it was always like, just like, fuck, dude, I'm kind of suffering now. I wish I was like there in every aspect with you. Like, as a father, I wanted to like just like not have any distraction but the love I had for the moment and everything, and you know, to do everything I could to possibly, I just take things way too far. But I just knew that I was not, you know, it'd be like anyone, like, I don't know, different levels of pain. You're just not 100%. So I just want to be 100%. Sometimes I guess I could accept it, but for when I was with him, it just was that much more pressure and motivation to figure this out. And but anyway, I'll get into that another time. Yeah, like, it's just like, and it didn't occur to me, I guess, until like around end of March of 2021, because then I kind of was like starting to give up on what I thought I could figure out on my own. That's when I was like, I had scheduled some appointments with like an actual MD, but she was like an alternative one or whatever, integrative or some shit. I don't know, but she could prescribe medicine too. But and that's all homeopath, and I did like this program and found out it was keto, and it was like $7,500, and I fucking bailed on it, and I got like a partial refund. I was pissed about that too, because the refund ended up being like, I paid $2,000 for 3 months worth of this like whole 3 phases of supplements. But I looked up even the supplement. Those supplements would have probably been like, I don't know, $300, maybe $500 tops. They definitely made way more than twice what those supplements sell for if you just bought them from Amazon. But anyway, so but then I thought, well, maybe I have SIBO somehow. Maybe this is bacterial. So I kind of switched up a lot of my herbs, and I took the Candibactin, but yeah, it made it worse. I'm actually getting tired of talking. It just kind of hit me. I just kind of like, it's just been so much different. And the last, I'm walking back home now, so I was kind of, you know, in this with, fuck, I forgot where I was gonna go with this. I don't know. This has been an experience I wish I'd known, but I also know we're not, like, no one lives the same life as anyone. Everyone's experience in life is 100% unique. But also, like, no one could describe how pain has impacted my life for how long it has, and how actually bad it was. And it's not like a mental pain. It was like, I wish I could describe it that way. Like, and I know a lot of people describe terrible situations in their life as it being painful, and a painful experience. Like, it can even last a long time for them too. But I don't know, physical pain, And even where the physical pain is, like the difference between, like I haven't had chronic pain anywhere else, that's true, but I've had broken bones and shit, and cramps, or just like sprains. I don't know, I've had pain that I could be like, yes, if this went on forever, and think about, comparing, if that something like that happened, would I feel the same way I do about pelvic pain? Because to me, not only is pain different from, or physical pain different from non-physical pain, in terms of, when people describe pain in their lives, but where the pain is, and even with, to take it even further than that, like pelvic pain can manifest in a lot of different ways. Like a golf ball feeling in the prostate or whatever, your urethra, your, like in your urethra when you piss, when like on your skin, like me, on your lower back. I guess unless you've had pain in every one of those locations, only until it happens what's worse, and determine which area is worse. If you had to pick one to not have ever, like, it would be the worst. So, like, I guess, like, my point is, like, I know full well my experience, to me, only matters with God. And, I know He will see it through and, keep His end of the deal up. But I have to as well. And I don't know why. I was tested in a way I feel is unfair and undeserved and misunderstood, because, like, everything I just said about that is because I know no one's going to understand. No matter how bad I say this is, I could make it all up and describe, like, I could be a really good actor, but the last 4.5 years, I don't know how else to describe it, but I was, most of the time I was in a mental prison. And a mental prison is self-imposed. And, who in their right mind would self-impose prison on them outside of, I guess if you're a bum on the street, maybe you're like, I'm hungry, I don't feel like fucking begging, and commit a petty crime and, like, go to jail for a night or some shit. I don't know, I've heard about that, but, like, I'm not, that's, like, and I know a lot of people even say they relate with what I say, but you won't. And like, I guess I understand why I was why at the time they kind of said maybe I'm bipolar or whatever. One, they were kind of looking for it because they wrote up the whole thing, and I kind of saw some justification. One thing that stuck with me is they said I had a God complex, and they said that because of my confidence in the things that I was telling them. And the things that I told them, was about my health, and they're in the healthcare system, and what I was saying was like conspiracy shit to them, Like, I was poisoned by pharma for one. That in itself, if a therapist hears that, or a psychoanalyst or whatever, if they hear that, they're just automatically gonna be like, put you in a sort of box and be like, I can't really take much else of what you say too serious because, you have a twisted way of thinking. It's kind of like if you're a Biden supporter and the person's a Trump supporter, or if you find out a person's a pedophile, you're like, fuck, like, you're my hero, Tom Hanks. How did you, I can't watch Forrest Gump anymore. I guess, but like, definitely not to that extreme. But yeah, got why I was able to that. And then because like it goes back to no tests. There's no tests to know what's going on, and they only care when it if something's out there killing people that they aren't finding on their tests. I guess that's when they really start researching. It's just weird that it's like, it doesn't seem like we're curing much these days. I guess like with the vaccines, we like claim that that's what keeps us from worrying about our health until we're old. But even antibiotics, unless you have an STD, it's like, to me, like, why else would a young person need an antibiotic? I feel like every antibiotic I might have taken in my life was also unnecessary until I got an STD, and then it was necessary. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm right on those sort of things. I mean, I definitely know there's not just snake oil, but I also know it's mostly snake oil. It's definitely mostly snake oil, especially the new shit. Yeah, unless it's like stem cell, which I don't know enough about. I considered it. It seems promising based on Joe Rogan loving it so much. But most of the new shit I want nothing to do with, especially if it's not in like modern medicine. And even modern medicine seems to come up with almost nothing new. They just come up with like better MRIs and shit. I don't know, that run faster. I don't know what they come up with. It doesn't seem like much though. I mean, I definitely know in the field of urology, nothing has changed in at least 14 years. The only thing that might have changed is maybe it's a little more common. People know about pelvic floor massage therapy as probably, something that won't hurt and everyone should try if it's chronic. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I definitely know there's no new treatments or nothing. It's the same shit, same tests, same antibiotics. If anything, maybe they probably prescribe antibiotics less now. Because the only reason I even got antibiotics is I really went to a family doctor. The urologists were like, "Do you want 7 days of Bactrim?" Like, that's the only thing I'll give you. And I'd be like, "Nah, if I'm gonna fucking try antibiotics, I need like 3 months, bro." And be like, "Oh my God, nah, not without a positive test, sir. You don't, 94% of prostatitis are non-bacterial," where family doctors would be like, not really know about shit like that. They'd just be like, prostatitis? I think I learned about that in medicine school, and they treat that with antibiotics. Like, literally, that's how my doctor was, who I got antibiotics from. And also, family doctors know nothing about it too. Because when I went to a psych ward, they promised, to have me meet an actual MD. And when I did, I told him about, even prostatitis. And he was like, I'm going to have to look into some things about prostatitis. I actually don't know much about it. I've never had a patient that had it. And I was like, everyone's got to think that, they gave me someone, who should be able to help with physical pain and understand. And they're not going to know that this guy himself has said he knows nothing about it. And the only benefit, if he's going to be of any, is something he can prescribe. So, is that a benefit? It's not. People assume it is, though. It's a fucked system. But I'm home now. It's been an hour or over an hour. That's my update. This isn't easy. Look how my cheeks. I'm fucking skinny as shit. I actually, like I said, I've only eaten kefir for almost a month. Definitely, I don't know. I probably have never eaten more than 500 calories if I measured it that way. And I walk a shit ton. I'll post. I've walked about an average of 20,000 steps a day for the last 30 days. I don't know how many calories that is extra what normal people burn a day. But I feel like I'm giving myself less gas per day than I'm consuming. I don't know when it's got to catch up. It's got to catch up though, right? Like eventually I got to run out of gas. But, peace.